Welcome back, my Better Life believers. We're gonna go on with part two of my personal experience, and we're gonna start off with what happened after my mother's funeral and death and everything. So, here we go. A little fast forward to when I was living with my father and his new girlfriend, which I'm going to go ahead and state now. It was very hard to go from being with my mother to another woman in the house. But I will say, I'm going to call her Nurse because I'm not going to use real names in this video or in my series at all. But she was a nurse, and so we're going to call her Nurse. And she was a wonderful woman. She had two daughters and a grandson, and she had very high motherly instincts, which is something that I needed in my life, especially right after everything that had happened. And so she was, very caring. She took care of me. She basically treated me like one of her own for quite some time. And I was in that stage in my life where I was going through the early stages of womanhood, where I was starting my period, everything like that. Things were changing. I wasn't a kid anymore. I was a preteen. All those crazy things. And she was there for me for all those times when when I needed her. And so there's nothing I can say about her besides she was a wonderful woman, and I think my father did not deserve to be in a relationship with her whatsoever. But we were there for quite some time. Little things happened. One of our pets died. And I just was stressed out a lot because I was going through certain tests at school, and it was like the little normal things that a kid should have to deal with. And I felt a sense of normalcy for a little bit, and it was very refreshing. But unfortunately, that didn't last long. When I say that, I mean later on we moved out of Nurse's house and we went to the city, and we lived with a woman. I will call her Missy. So little Missy, she had two sons. We lived in St. Louis, like the most slummish, disgusting part of St. Louis I could possibly think to live. And I don't like the city anyway, so when I was told that I would be moving like an hour or so, like almost 2 or 3 hours away from my school, it was very stressful for me at first. And, we lived with her and her sons, and it was okay at first. I thought, okay, we're bouncing around a little bit. This is fine. Things are getting kind of rough. But living with Missy and her sons was hell. I didn't realize starting out that this was how it was going to be. I thought, oh, she might seem nice. She's always wanted a daughter. But I wasn't being treated like I was by Nurse. And it didn't feel natural. It felt very fake. It felt very pushy. Like I was being presented as not who I wanted to be. And as time went on, we started bringing other people in the house here and there, and I'm not gonna lie, there was some points in times where I knew who these people were. I knew they were drug dealers. I knew they were not the type of people. They were thugs. They were people that shouldn't be around children. And they were actually selling and distributing the drugs and everything like that out of this house that I was living in, and it felt like a very dangerous situation. There was actually times throughout a month that we would get robbed. I never knew where, you know, my next like meal was going to come from. I never knew what was going to happen next. Her two sons weren't very comforting in the situation. They kind of despised their mother, and it's fine. They had their own family quarrel that I was not going to be a part of because that wasn't my family. I didn't need to impress them. I didn't need to, lure them in, or I didn't need to like connect with them as much as I had once thought. They were just people I was living with, and I just had to deal with it. I mean, the only things that I ever did enjoy were they had two beautiful dogs, and I just would play outside all day because there was nothing else for me. So later on, I, like there was really troubling times where I witnessed things I shouldn't have. I witnessed at one point one of the drug dealers that lived in this house, my father and Missy the uh and the drug dealer were sitting on a fold out bed that was in our living room, and they were literally just doing straight cocaine right in front of me. They thought they were clever and they were going to hide the plate under a pillow or whatever, but it's not like this wasn't my first time witnessing something like this. It was just really hard to take in because it was just right there in my face as an 11-year-old. I was like 10 and a half. And for the simple fact that my father did not care that I was there and that he was doing those sort of things, it's like his addiction. I knew his addiction had hijacked his brain in some way, shape, or form, but I didn't realize it literally stripped him of his good parenting skills or even his moral compass. So, you know, we were there for quite some time. Other things happened. Not really too drastic besides the here and there getting robbed, me watching them, do drugs right in front of me, the boys being ignorant towards me because I don't really think they wanted me there. And that's fine. I understand that they didn't accept me. But we ended up leaving that house again and we went back to Nurse's house. And I thanked the heavens above for this change of pace because I wanted to go back there so bad. I didn't want to leave in the first place. And then, and in between this time, I was staying at my aunt's house, and she was wonderful. She is one of the best people in my life, and I would stay at her house all the time with her and my uncle, and I was able to go to school easier there, and so I just went ahead and changed schools. And there came a point in time where this whole lifestyle of bumping back and forth just was too much for my aunt and uncle to bear to watch. Because as I was growing up, they were always there. They were there to make sure I was fed. They were there to make sure that we had food at our house, even when we lived in High Ridge when my mother was still alive. So they were always there to make sure things got done and I was taken care of. So, with that being said, I was there pretty much majority of the time towards the end of me living in St. Louis and going back to High Ridge. So, one day, my aunt asked my father on a car ride, I don't know really where they were going, but she said, "What would it take for you to give your rights up of me and to give your rights up of Taylor and for me to just have her here so she can go to school and live somewhat of a normal life because she is not fitting your type of lifestyle." And I know from what I understand that he contemplated it for a minute and then he said, "You know what? Let's sit and talk about it over you getting me a bottle of vodka and $20." And with that short exchange, he signed his rights away. My father signed his rights away of his only daughter for a bottle of vodka and $20 because addiction does that to you. Substance abuse is terrible, and it stripped him of his moral compass and the fact that I'm his only daughter. That's it. Like, he signed his rights away and he's never been able to control anything else in my life ever since, which is fine because I do have a very hard resentment towards him. So after that, I did go to school and I started actually feeling a little normal with my aunt and uncle. I was very comfortable with them. Their house was loving. It was very nice. It was the most peaceful I have ever been in a while, but I was still very quiet. I was still very to myself because I didn't quite understand how I should be. I had always just kept to myself before, thinking that that's what I needed to do. Well, I tried very hard to be open. I made some friends. I had a neighbor friend across the street, and I played with her every day. And, I started feeling normal again. I started actually feeling like a kid. But what's sad is I was a preteen. I was getting into my preteen years. My childhood had already been stripped at this point. I didn't get one. I didn't get what everybody else got. So that's why I never felt normal. And technically, I still don't feel normal. But we'll explain that in later videos. But so for now, I'm going to end the video here with, me finally having somewhat of a normal life, living with my aunt and uncle. And I will leave with a quote. So the devil whispered in my ear, "You're not strong enough to withstand this storm." Today, I whisper in his ear and say, "I am the storm." So thank you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Keep believing in a better life.